In light of the ongoing global economic crisis, recession, inflation, and high interest rates, what are the best considerations you need to keep in mind before starting to invest? Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in and welcome back to your favorite channel where we bring you the best tips and tools for financial freedom. Before we get started though, we would highly appreciate if you could consider helping the channel grow by subscribing and giving this video a like. Thank you. Now without any further ado, let's get rich. Alright, future billionaires, the number one factor we really need to consider before anything else when it comes to investing in 2023 is actually whether or not you are in a financial position to start investing. Are you financially comfortable and have that extra amount that you are wondering where to put it? This is simply because in the short term, anything is subject to fluctuations. Your portfolio might go up or it might go down. In order to be a successful investor, you need to be in the market for years. That's how rich people make money in the stock or crypto or any other market for that matter. They typically make heavy investments and hold on to them for the longest possible. So what do we mean by that is that you've got to ensure that any money put aside for investing isn't going to be needed in your day-to-day life, especially if you're married. Another thought that you need to take into consideration before starting to invest in this, when interest rates go up, as they are now, most companies make less to no profit at all, and they start to cut costs and lay off staff. One more important question that you need to ask yourself, do I have an emergency fund? Is my income secure enough for the next 12 months, to say the least? If you want to learn more about personal finance habits that will change your life forever, click the video right here or check the description box below for 12 personal finance rules that changed my life. Recessions are typically a great entry point for new investors. Companies certainly aren't kind when it comes to dealing with workers. That's why you need to assess your own financial situation or seek professional help from a financial advisor to answer these questions first. And from there, the number two factor that must be considered is interest rate. And as we mentioned earlier, interest rates are going up meanwhile, right? And we could see signs on the horizon that inflation is coming down and the Federal Reserve might decide to slow down the rate of interest rate hikes. However, broadly speaking, in 2023, it seems as though we are headed towards a high interest rate environment again, and certainly a lot higher than what we have seen over the past few years. So what does that mean for investors? Well, it means quite a few things, because in the stock market, high interest rates make it much more difficult for businesses to grow. Servicing debt becomes more expensive, and expansion and opening new stores becomes more expensive as well. This actually goes hand in hand with people having less discretionary income to purchase goods and services that make up the revenue of the companies we are considering to invest in. For instance, in real estate investing, higher interest rates means higher mortgage payments if you have variable rate debts, which in turn means a drop in returns for investors as more of the rental income goes towards paying interest. In terms of housing market in general, it's common sense that as interest rates go up, landlords and homeowners will be forced to a breaking point and more homes will be available for both rent and sale, which increases the supply, which puts pressure on prices. So this is the second thing you must be aware of, the effective interest rate on your investment. Now, will interest rates keep going up in 2023? It's a logical question. Unfortunately, who knows? Because it's contingent on that inflation rate going down again to 2 or 3%. The Federal Reserve said that they will keep on tightening until inflation is controlled. But how long will that take and how many times interest rate hikes are necessary to control inflation, we don't really know for sure. The third factor we need to think about is focusing on each individual investment and its merit instead of just acting based on macro. So what do we mean here? Allow me to elaborate. It's crucial to understand what's happening with inflation and interest rates. However, due to the fact that knowing these kind of things are unpredictable, you should analyze each potential investment individually purely based on its fundamentals and long-term growth potential. Here is what Peter Lynch said in one of his iconic presentations ever.
Not lottery tickets. There's a company behind every stock. If the company does well, the stock does well. It's not that complicated. People get too carried away. And first of all, they try and predict the stock market. That is a total waste of time. No one can predict the stock market. They try to predict interest rates. If anybody could predict interest rates right 3 times in a row, they'd be a billionaire. Considering there's not that many billionaires on the planet. Logic, so I had a syllogism and studied these when I was at Boston College. There can't be that many people who can predict interest rates because there'd be lots of billionaires. And no one can predict the economy. I had a lot of people in this room were around in 1981 and 82 when we had a 20% prime rate, double-digit inflation, double-digit unemployment. I don't remember anybody telling me in 1981 about it. I didn't read. I studied all this stuff. I don't remember anybody telling me we had the worst recession since the Depression. So what I'm trying to tell you, it would be very useful to know what the stock market is going to do. It would be terrific to know that the Dow Jones average a year from now would be X, that we're going to have a full-scale recession where interest rates are going to be 12%. That's useful stuff. You never know it. You just don't get to learn it. So I've always said if you spend 14 minutes a year in economics, you've wasted 12 minutes. And I really believe that.
As you said, we do need to judge each individual business based on its fundamentals. Do we understand it? Is there a competitive advantage backed up by the numbers or data such as revenue growth, free cash flow, earnings per share, equity, and so on? We should even judge the management vision and strategy. Are they doing a good job when it comes to keeping debt low? Is the return on invested capital high? And finally, what's the valuation on this business? The last consideration today to keep in mind before making the decision to invest is temperament. The basic rule of thumb of stock market is to buy low and sell high, right? I'm sure if you are watching this, you have heard of this before. Surprisingly, most inexperienced investors do the opposite. It might sound very basic to you, but when a certain stock dips all of a sudden and everybody starts talking about it, people panic and they often end up selling at a loss, and this happens all the time. That's why a part of being a good investor, you must develop that psychological shield to avoid failing in this trap. In fact, most market crashes occur due to mass panic. If you are looking to be a really successful long-term investor, then you must have control over your emotions, not to take actions upon them. And out of transparency with you guys, with disinflation and high interest rates and global political issues, we anticipate 2023 to be a rough year for investors. But this is just our interpretation here at 10 Minutes Finance. On the other hand, maybe the Federal Reserve decides to bring down the interest rates and this inflation cools down and we all get back on track. But you always need to be prepared for the worst case scenario. And this comes down to focusing on the long term and only invest the amount of money that you don't need in the short term. Alright, young investors and future billionaires, there are the 4 considerations for investing in 2023. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, get up, and go get rich.